Hello, I'm Terry Christensen, and this is Valley Politics. Today, Mike Wasserman, the president of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors, will give us a little preview of his official State of the County speech coming up this month. We'll ask him about the state of the county budget and where we are with the pandemic, and we'll have questions from constituents about redistricting, funding for a new jail versus mental health programs, and more. And that's what's coming up on Valley Politics. Welcome everyone, and welcome Mike Wasserman, President of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
Mike, can you give us a little preview of your upcoming State of the County speech? What in general do you think the state of our county is these days?
Sure. I'm known as a cup is half full kind of a guy, and I'm going to tell you that our county is in great shape. We've got a pandemic going with COVID, with Omicron. But as far as people serving the public, providing the services, answering the 911, the hospitals, the sheriff, all the things that the county is responsible for doing, we are doing. Lines are a little longer, staffs are a little shorter. There's a term called DSWs, disaster service workers. So each department is reduced in size, but Santa Clara County is open for business and providing services.
Well, that's great to hear. And that's my experience too.
Good.
I can argue with you about that for sure. Last year when we talked, the county was looking at a small budget deficit. How's it looking this year for the budget? I know it's early, but.
Terry, it's looking good. Our assessor's roll of properties has grown by $25.5 billion. And we have a $9.2 billion budget coming up, and things are looking good. If another Delta variant Greek letter comes along, you know, it's going to throw a curveball to everybody. But right now, the county's doing well.
Well, speaking of the budget, recently the county issued hero pay, $76 million for over 20,000 employees of the county as a bonus for their work during the COVID pandemic. And there was some criticism of that. Some people thought there were other ways to spend $76 million. Some people thought maybe not every county worker deserved it. What's your response to that criticism?
Sure. It was $2,500 per employee, first of all, which comes down to being a cup of coffee a day each work day for 2 years. That puts the $2,500 in perspective. What happened here, Terry, was very unique in history, where government service workers were summoned, mandated, required to leave their jobs that they were hired for and trained at the county. So a planner, a clerk, whatever, was plucked by the CEO. Some departments had 10% of their staff taken, some had 20, some had 30, some had 40. There was no choice in the matter. It all varied as to how much was needed to serve the people as far as testing, COVID, and the lines and everything else. The disaster service workers that were plucked from their department. So think about being trained in school, working in your department, you're a planner in the planning and building department. And they say to you, Terry, we need you to be in the parking lot, rain or sunshine, testing people's noses or filling out reports. And it was 6 months, and then it was a year, and then it was 18 months, and then it was 2 years. Well, when you pluck 25% of the people from a department, we still want to provide the services that department's supposed to do. So the remaining 75% of the people not only did their own job, they did the jobs of the missing people. So here you take people from, like I said, clerks, planners, whatever, to be on the front lines of a pandemic, taking a swab of somebody who may have COVID, filling out forms, taking a pen, etc. And it's been 2 years of doing that. And in the meantime, the other people had to do their job and other people. They are all heroes, the people on the front line and the people doing 1.5 times the job they were hired for, and their pay didn't go up.
I think you need to write an op-ed piece and say all that so everybody understands it, because I'm not sure that was clear in the way the news was reported.
I agree that wasn't clear in the way the news was reported.
Well, that of course was in relation to the pandemic. Everybody had to do their jobs a little bit differently or a lot differently. Where do you think we are in the county now with the pandemic? Do you think there's an end in sight? Is there any hope we get back to normal?
Yes to an end in sight, yes to back to normal, and I'll use this opportunity to brag. Santa Clara County has vaccinated 92% of all people 12 years of age and older. That is the highest percentage in the United States
Wow.
of any county of 1 million people or more. We are doing the job better than any other large county in the nation. This Omicron is very, very, very contagious, but people who've got their shots and boosted, if they get it, the symptoms are minor. The people that are in our hospital, okay, 90% of them didn't get vaccinated. So you need to get vaccinated to prevent getting Omicron. And if you get it, and a lot of people are going to get it. I have a ton of family members that got it. I got COVID between my first and my second shot, but it was having that booster that's protecting against Omicron. And people who've been vaccinated that get Omicron, they're not dying. And I'm sorry for all the people that are getting sick, but the most important thing is that people not die.
Yeah.
And vaccinated people are not dying.
So there's hope.
Absolutely hope.
It'll end.
It will end. What we've got is very contagious, but not as deadly.
Yeah.
And if you're vaccinated, we're in a good shape. This is coming to an end.
Or it may never come to an end, but it'll come to a manageable state. And
Yes.
we'll cope with it like we've been coping with the flu for
I got my flu
decades.
shot. I got my shingle shot.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
Me too. We're shot.
Yeah, we're shot.
All right. Good. Well, speaking of healthcare, what do you know what the current percentage of people in the county covered by some kind of health insurance?
Yes, it is now 95%. 10 years ago, it was 90%. It's now 95%, which is excellent, and we're still working on getting more people insured.
Well, that's something to really brag about, I think, and it goes back decades of work by
Yes.
our city council in San Jose, and especially by your colleagues on the Board of Supervisors, your current colleagues and your past colleagues.
Yes.
It's a percentage to be really proud of.
Thank you.
Well, as you know, Mike, we have several questions from county residents
Okay.
for you. And the first one comes from Kyra Kazantzis, who you know is with the Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits. Here's Kyra.
Hi, Supervisor Wasserman. Dozens of nonprofit organizations have recently taken a position opposing the building of a third jail in Santa Clara County. Should the county be investing in filling the gaps our community has in behavioral health services, substance abuse treatment, as well as crime and violence prevention, rather than additional facilities for incarceration? Thank you.
Thank you, Kyra, and thank you, Terry, for the opportunity to answer that question. As people know, I'm in favor of building a new jail and a mental health facility. In 1975 and 1976, I worked at Agnew State Hospital. Okay, the state.
Wait, you better tell people what Agnew's was.
Agnew's was a very large facility to treat those that were mentally ill. It wasn't for people that belong in jail. It was for people that were mentally ill. Mentally ill people do not belong in jail, okay? The state, for whatever reason, got rid of the facility. And whenever I see a state elected person, I take the opportunity to say, hey, you guys closed Agnew State Hospital. Exactly when did you cure mental illness? Many of our state electeds now don't even know that there was an Agnew State Hospital.
Right.
But I have a couple of points here that I wrote down that I'd like to read specifically to that. Counties are legally mandated to hold individuals incarcerated by the courts. Remember, it's not the county that says you need to go to jail, it's the state court system. Once they say that person has to go to jail, counties are mandated to hold them. Secondly, they must be held by custody operations, public safety professionals. If a county does not have a jail, they must contract with another county to house their incarcerated population for them. The state does not allow for incarcerated individuals to be held at a mental health center. Lastly, it is simple. We need a new jail and we need expanded mental health services. We took down, there's Main Jail North, this is on Heading, very close to Heading and First.
Yeah.
There's Main Jail North, there's Main Jail South, and there's Elmwood. We took down Main Jail South because of the inhumane conditions that were there, wasn't ADA, wasn't seismic. We have the plans to build a new jail. The people living in Main Jail North, those conditions are not humane or ADA or seismic, and Elmwood the same thing. What I've proposed to my board is we rebuild a new state-of-the-art jail that gives each prisoner more room, things are not as confined, more outdoor space to help rehabilitate them, and we look at the Elmwood location for a mental health facility.
And what do you think the timeline is for a decision on that? Got to get your colleagues to go along.
Terry, that's a good question. When I got on the board 11 plus years ago, they showed me the new jail they designed for Main Jail South 11 years ago, and it was about this tall. Then the state came out and said, we don't want to put as many people in jail, so we had the architects redo it, and it went about this tall. Then we said there's more people with mental health conditions in jail than we thought, so let's make more than half the floors be able to treat and rehabilitate those that are in need. It has been 11 to 12 years. It was designed before me, so it's been at least 15-year topic. It's been redesigned 3 times, and I hope a majority of the board very soon says we need to build a new jail, and we do so to get the people out of the inhumane conditions and situations they are in the 2 other facilities, get them in something that is ADA compliant and seismic compliant and built to help those people. And then we build, or simultaneously, we build a mental health facility.
And do you think that's going to happen? You have 11 months left in your term. Are you going to get to vote on this?
I think I'll get to vote on it, yes.
Well,
yes.
Good luck.
Yes.
I hope you do. It's been
Mind you, it was voted on 2 times before.
Yeah.
And they decided to build a jail.
Yeah.
And then,
long time coming.
yes.
Long time coming.
Yes.
Well, as you well know, another big issue for the public is homelessness. Probably number 1 after COVID. Lots of complaints. I hear people saying the government's done nothing, the county's done nothing, nobody's doing anything. In fact, the county's done a lot. As voters in 2016, we approved
Correct.
a bond issue for $950 million.
Yes.
I think 2/3 of that money's been allocated or
Yes.
spent. Not all the projects have been built. It takes time to go through the process and build stuff and then house people, but the county's actually done a fair amount. My question is it enough?
Sure. Good question. The county has, I just need to refer to my notes here, is building 3,587 new units, which is enough to house 10,000 people by 2025. Every 2 to 3 years, we take a homeless census, and although we house thousands of people a year for the last 6 years, our homeless population is still growing. People are becoming homeless faster than we're able to house them. And what we need to do is get to the prevention. We have people coming back from war. We have people coming out of the juvenile program. We need to do stuff for them, people coming out of prison, so that they don't become homeless. We need to house permanent housing with services to house the people we have, and then kind of look up the river and prevent people from becoming homeless in the first place. But with a population of 2 million, we are never going to have no homeless people. What we need to do is get it down to a much smaller number. Percentage-wise, we have more homeless people per capita in Santa Clara County than I like to see. I'd like to see it cut in half.
And of course, this goes back to the jail and mental health issue, mental health housing as well, and it does seem to carry on for a long time. Let's take another guest question. This is from Juan Carlos Aguirre. He's a student at San Jose State University, and here's Juan Carlos.
As the former mayor of Los Gatos, what are your reactions and feelings towards the bullying and harassment that Mayor Mariko Sayok has been receiving lately? Back in the fall of 2021, Los Gatos residents demonstrated anti-Asian and anti-LGBTQ sentiments and rhetoric at city council meetings. What are your thoughts on this public display of discrimination? Thank you.
I think what those people expressed was inappropriate. I was proud to march. Juan might have been there as well. We marched from a school in Los Gatos all the way down Los Gatos Boulevard to Main Street and then to a stage. And I spoke there with Mayor Sayok, Mariko, my friend, there against hate. And Terry, there were thousands of people from Los Gatos and all over there that said, we will not tolerate hate, we are against hate. there was issues in Los Gatos High School a couple of years ago, but again, it was just a couple few people who spoke up. The majority of the people said, that's not us. You don't speak for us, okay? We are anti-hate. Los Gatos is anti-hate. Santa Clara County is anti-hate. And I go back to my friend Ken Yeager, okay, who 11 years ago taught me a lot about what was going on in Santa Clara County. And Santa Clara County is much better, and Santa Clara County as a whole is anti-hate. There's always a few exceptions to the rule, and I listen, but they're wrong. What they did was wrong, what they said was wrong, and the population came out and said, we're not taking that.
Were you shocked that this happened in Los Gatos, your hometown? It's not what we expect from Los Gatos.
No, it's not, but there's people with radically different views in all communities,
Yeah.
from Little Montessorino or Los Altos to San Jose, and we've got freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And they came out and said what they said, and it was way overblown, and it was inappropriate, and it was wrong. Sometimes I'm sitting up on the dais in a board meeting, and people get to speak during public comment. They have the right to speak. We have the right not to agree. And that's where I am. I do not agree, do not approve, do not like what occurred, and I'm very proud of the response. The public march, down the streets of Los Gatos Boulevard and Main Street was an awesome show of solidarity. That's wrong.
Have you as an elected official had to grow thicker skin over your time in office? Because politics has gotten nastier, and there's more venting at public meetings, it seems like.
Yeah, unfortunately so. This is my 20th year as an elected official. My skin is much thicker. Initially, I was shocked when I was on the Los Gatos Council, some people saying things. It was very few. But at the Board of Supervisors, we have people who come up and exercise their freedom of speech and say things that are offensive. And as chair of the Board of Supervisors, if it gets too offensive, I put a halt to it.
Okay, we have another question from Juan Carlos Aguirre. So here's Juan Carlos for question number 2.
Recently, the Board of Supervisors voted 3-2 to approve new district maps for the county. You were one of the votes against the new district lines. I'm wondering what guided your decision to vote against the new map, and what kind of impact do you feel or see happening with the newly approved map? Thank you.
Every 10 years, as you know, a census is taken, redistricting is done. The purpose for the redistricting is to make sure that each supervisor represents basically the same number of people. So if you take 2 million divided by 5, we represent roughly 400,000 people each. The redistricting map that was approved and is now the law of the land for 10 years, I did not agree with at all. The state gave us criteria on how to design, how to redistrict, and you don't have to redistrict. But the deviation, Terry, which is the difference in the number of people, the high and the low, was currently 17%. The state doesn't want anything over 10%. I'm the only member on our current Board of Supervisors that has sat through 2 censuses and 2 redistrictings. So I've seen this happen twice now. The state gives guidelines. One of the guidelines is that the deviation be as small as possible. The map that I proposed had a deviation of 1.5%. The map that was approved was 4.5%. So you're already halfway to getting to 10 where you don't belong. I was against that. The second criteria of the state is compactness, if you will, and that there were natural boundaries like Highway 101 or 85, parks, there were natural boundaries. The map I proposed had nice, rounded, compact shapes. The map that was approved was like this, and from your perspective, a finger coming out this way. Okay? It wasn't as compact. The deviation wasn't as good, but sometimes you're on the winning side of a vote, sometimes you're on the losing side of the vote.
We should be clear that what happened with the map is Los Gatos, which is where you're from, and which you represented on the board for 12 years, got moved out of the district and into a kind of West Valley district that goes all the way up to Palo Alto.
Supervisor Simidian's District 5.
Yeah, do you think that's a good fit?
No. Joe's a seasoned veteran. Supervisor Simidian, okay, he's been a state senator. He's been around in a good way, okay? He now has 8 small cities. He has to deal with 8 mayors, 8 councils. 8 is more than half of the 15 in Santa Clara County. Those 8 cities have one supervisor representing them. Before he had 6, I had 5. Vice President Ellenberg had, I think, 3 or 4. And so the supervisors, the small cities were kind of spread around more among supervisors. Now he has 8. The addition to my district with the removal of Los Gatos and Montecito was Evergreen, the Villages, Silver Creek, San Antonio Valley Road, Lick Observatory. So my District 1 now goes from Lick Observatory to the end of Gilroy, which is Hollister. It is 800 square miles. The whole county is 1,300. I've got 800, the other 4 have 500. Anyway, I pitched my map then. I'm pitching it to you. The vote has been taken. And like I said, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Yeah, you lost on that one.
So, yep.
There you go. Well, another issue that could affect your district is not in your district, but it's Reid-Hillview Airport. We talked about this a little bit last year. A lot of people want to see Reid-Hillview closed. If it closes, it could impact the airport at San Martin, which is in your district, your old district and your new district. What do you think is going to happen with that, Reid-Hillview?
Sure, there was a vote taken. Whenever the county takes money from the FAA for its airports, that's kind of a 20-year agreement. You take money from us, and then you'll remain an airport. The county now hasn't taken money for several years, and so the majority of the supervisors, I voted against it, and I believe Supervisor Simidian voted against it. I don't quite recall, but I believe it was another 3-2 vote, was to close the airport as of 2031. That's 9 years from now. The FAA has already told me they won't allow that. So I don't know what's going to happen 9 years from now. What I do know is the big issue now, Terry, has been the lead emissions from the airplanes. And the county did a study of the population around Reid-Hillview Airport within a 1-mile radius. And yes, when airplanes fill up with leaded gas and then take off, their exhaust spews lead emissions. And yes, the study found that the people living in that area had higher lead emissions in their body than normal in people in other areas. So I said, let's bring unleaded gas to the airports because people wanted to close the airport because of lead emission.
Yeah.
I said, let's get rid of the lead emission. We now have in the one fuel tank at San Martin, it is unleaded only. So we've put an end to planes there filling up with leaded gas and spewing it. Reid-Hillview is a different situation. Reid-Hillview, 2 of the 4 tanks right now are unleaded. But the FAA has said to us, you must provide both types of fuel if they're available. We're arguing that around Reid-Hillview Airport, the density of people is so much that they should make an exception to the rule, allow us to have unleaded only. I think it's silly that they know there's lead emissions on people, and they're saying we have to have leaded gas. Now the EPA has been called in to look at our results, and of course they're going to say this is an environmental hazard. You're spewing lead among the population. So I hope they tell the FAA, make an exception, let us go to unleaded only. And people need to realize Reid-Hillview has more operations, landings and takeoffs, than San Jose International Airport.
Wow.
Reid-Hillview is the 10th busiest airport in California.
Wow.
San Jose International is the 11th. If you close that, you're going to be sending planes over to the international airport where 737s come and go, and it's going to mess up everything. Timing coming in. There's going to be flight patterns over other communities. San Martin and Palo Alto Airport will be affected.
Wow. Mike, we're down to the last 5 minutes, and we have a couple of kind of big questions for you. One, my question is, what was your biggest disappointment in your 11 years on the board? And maybe you just answered it with the redistricting.
Terry, you're a mind reader. That is my biggest disappointment. I'm glad my biggest disappointment came in my 19th year out of a 20-year career.
Yeah.
But being redistricted out of the community that I represented is 8 years on the council and 12 years on the board, 11 years on the board of supervisors, that saddens me. But they're in very good hands with Supervisor Simidian. And when I retire, I'm going to go be the 8th grade boys basketball coach at Fisher Middle School, and it won't matter if I represent or don't represent.
Well, speaking of that new district, are you going to endorse in the race for District 1?
No, I'm not endorsing at this time. I've told all the candidates that I'm not endorsing at this time. I may endorse at a later date, perhaps when the primary comes around.
Well, we're down to 3 minutes now, and here's our final question from Paul Fong, who, as you know, is the president of the South Bay Labor Council. Here's Paul Fong.
Hi, my name is Paul Fong, president of the executive board of the South Bay Labor Council. I have a question for you, Supervisor Wasserman. What was your greatest accomplishment on the Board of Supervisors for these nearly 12 years that you served on it? Thank you very much.
Greatest accomplishments. I'm going to read very quickly because when you brought that up, half a dozen things came to mind. A few years ago, I introduced Real Life Help, and that was a county-wide mission to educate the public on all the services that are there, that their tax dollars pay for, that are available to them. I received hundreds of thank you letters. They didn't know this, they didn't know this, they didn't know that. Reducing recidivism. Recidivism, people come out of jail, if they commit a crime again, that's called recidivizing. We opened up a reentry center in San Jose and in Gilroy, and people, when they come out of jail, go there and they learn how to use the computer to apply for a job. We get them housing, etc. And as a result, we cut our recidivism rate about 25%. The state came to us and said, what are you doing? We want to tell other counties. And that limits the number of people who would become victims because these people coming out of jail aren't committing a crime again. I'm chair of our Santa Clara County Library District. It just received its 5th star, which is the highest rating in the nation. The Habitat Conservation Plan is a program that we created about 9 years ago. I happen to chair it, and it protects endangered species and plants and animals and protects open space. And we were the first Habitat Conservation Plan in the state of California. The Emerald Necklace is what we call our network of parks and trails that connect. We have added on to it enormously during my 11 years, including the addition of Marshall Cottle Park and the Silicon Valley Regional Interoperability Authority, which I also happen to chair. That's a series of antennas throughout Santa Clara County that now allows law enforcement and public safety, VTA, the sheriff, fire, all to communicate to each other. In the 9/11 horrendous activity, those law enforcement people could not communicate to each other. Santa Clara County can now. So if we have a terrorist act, natural disaster act, whatever agencies need to speak to each other to help the public, they can now get on the radio, go to a channel, and talk to each other. Did I get it within your time?
You absolutely did. That was remarkable, and that's a pretty remarkable record to be
Thank you.
very proud of. So congratulations on your 20 years in public office.
Thank you.
Got almost another year to finish off. I hope it'll be as good as the previous years. Thanks for being with us, Mike.
Thank you, Terry.
We'll be back next month with an update from San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo on the state of the city. Meanwhile, you can follow us on Facebook, and you can also catch up on all our previous shows on our website at createtvsj.org or on YouTube by searching for Create TV San Jose. And now, that's all, folks. Thanks for watching.